William Byron and Hendrick Motorsports absolutely steal the show at Martinsville. Let's talk about NASCAR at the Paperclip. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dirty Air. I'm your host, Alex Lambert, and let's talk about NASCAR at the Half Mile of Mayhem, the Martinsville Speedway, where William Byron, Hendrick Motorsports absolutely steal the show, dominating today's Martinsville race. We'll break all that down. Denny Hamlin trying to spoil that Hendrick Motorsports party a little bit. We'll talk about Bubba Wallace. We'll talk about some guys that had rough days. We'll go through the top 10 and talk about the big three drivers of the day, and let's go ahead and get on into it. I do want to start out by saying I was in attendance for today's race. I have completely lost my voice over the weekend. Not strictly from being at the race today, but over the weekend I did lose my voice, and then I went to the race today on Sunday. I just want to talk a little bit about the at-track experience because, man, it is so exciting going to any racetrack, but Martinsville Speedway, the atmosphere was there. The fans brought the excitement to the racetrack. I'd say it was mostly full grandstands. At least it looked from where I was sitting. I'm not sure what it looked like on TV, but it looked like mostly full grandstands. I know it wasn't sold out. It looked like a really good crowd, though. Martinsville has a lot of seats. The atmosphere was there. Just hearing the rumble of the race cars taking the green flag is absolutely amazing. And then obviously seeing William Byron take the checkered and win the race was absolutely exciting. So Martinsville, once again, going to the spring race there, absolutely exciting. Was so glad I was able to go and enjoy the race this weekend. So the at-track experience was awesome. But let's go ahead and talk about the winner of this race, the driver of the 24 Chevrolet for the third time this season. I'm talking about him being the winner, and he's the first three-time winner this year in only 8 races. So William Byron is obviously on top of the world right now, and that is including that Daytona 500 win back in February, which is big enough in of itself, right? But William Byron was really the only driver today for looking over the whole track, right? Because you can look over Martinsville and see the entire racetrack, and you could see there was some dirty air coming in. I mean, it was hard to pass today. That's nothing new at Martinsville with this new Gen 7 or next gen race car. But William Byron was really the only driver that was able to consistently pass through the field the entire race. There were times Byron couldn't get by, but man, he was so strong all race long. I mean, there were times when he was outside. He started 18th, and we got to keep that in mind. When he was passing drivers outside of the top 10, like passing for 14th, 13th, he was going around them on the outside, which is extremely difficult to do in any generation of race cars at this racetrack. He's one of the few drivers I was able to see make it work consistently inside the top 20, right? I mean, he was doing that consistently in the first stage of the race, which is absolutely phenomenal. I want to say, was he 11th or in the 10th position after the first stage? I have to go back and look, but man, William Byron really did steal the show today, because watching it over in the grandstand, seeing everything that was going on, William Byron was really the one. I was like, well, he's the one to watch. He's the one with the fastest car, obviously, and you could see it, and it was so great. And I hope TV covered that well. Because he was really stealing the show from what I saw looking at the grandstands. But really, Hendrick Motorsports was just strong all day. Chase Elliott had a strong showing for the first time in a while. Kyle Larson had a strong showing. I think it was Hendrick was having some sort of like celebration. I saw I think it was Hendrick Motorsports employees on the back straightaway celebrating, all wearing red. They had commemorative red paint scheme. So it was a really good day for Hendrick Motorsports, finishing 1, 2, 3, the first time ever in Martinsville history a single team is finished 1, 2, 3 at this racetrack. And then, of course, Alex Bowman, sort of an outlier there, finishing in the 8th position, which is not terrible. Once again, another top 10 run for that 48 car. But let's just talk about Hendrick Motorsports in general. I mean, they're so strong right now. They're winning multiple races this season. William Byron already with those 3 wins this year. Kyle Larson already with his 1 win. Solid run. They've won half the races this season so far. They've won the last 3 races at Martinsville in the spring. Hendrick Motorsports is looking really good right now. We'll see if they can carry that over. And once again, the only driver to win this season besides a Joe Gibbs Toyota or Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet is Daniel Suarez in the Trackhouse Chevrolet at Atlanta earlier this year. So that's something else to keep in mind as we move into Texas next week. But just really exciting race today. I'll talk about my top 3 drivers of the day, because obviously we're going to go with William Byron. Extremely fast, was able to pass cars all day long, was certainly the best car of the day. We had an overtime restart at the end of the race. We can take a quick look at that, where Chase Elliott was trying to, kind of pull something off there and get by him, but man, William Byron just made it stick where Chase Elliott couldn't, and William Byron just eventually took off, won by multiple car lengths at the finish of the race in only 2 laps. He was so strong today. Once again, William Byron's obviously one of those fastest cars. I do put Chase Elliott as the second fastest car of the day because he was one of those that were able to get by Denny Hamlin, get by Kyle Larson. He was one of those few drivers that were able to pass up front, which was certainly good to watch. That's probably the first time I'm sort of talking about how Chase Elliott's getting better every week, but I say today was the first time in a long time that I saw Chase Elliott, and he was literally contending for the win. I thought he might win this race. He's very well in contention to win this race, and that's the first time in a while that we've seen Chase Elliott do that. Obviously, last year was a rough season with injuries and such, but even the start of this year was a little bit disappointing, I think, for Chase Elliott fans. So it's certainly interesting to see him back up, finishing in the 3rd position and running very consistently. We'll have to keep an eye on that moving forward. I think Chase Elliott could go back to victory lane this season. We'll have to watch him next week at Texas and see what he's able to do. Sort of getting better each week if you look at the 9 team, right? You know, Kyle Larson, William Byron, they're already there. They're ready to go. You look at Alex Bowman, you look at Chase Elliott, they're a little bit behind those two, trying to catch up. Chase Elliott is. Alex Bowman still seems to be lagging behind a little bit right now, but that's something to keep watching is how all those 4 cars continue to compete. Denny Hamlin, he actually finished in the 11th position. He came down pit road before going into that overtime restart for some reason. I guess he thought he could gain some position on tires. He knew he wasn't going to win the race, so why not try something completely different, right? Denny Hamlin came down pit road, finished 11th. But Hamlin was probably the 3rd fastest car of the day. He was another one of those drivers you saw passing for the lead, was able to get by Chase Elliott at one point, was able to get by Kyle Larson at one point, but had nothing for William Byron. Nobody really had anything for William Byron all day long, but a solid run for Denny Hamlin today. And once again, he's really fast at the short tracks. He was undefeated at the short tracks going into today. The Clash, Bristol last week at Richmond. So Denny Hamlin really strong at these short tracks right now. Something to keep an eye on moving forward with more short tracks on the schedule. You know, Iowa being added, you get more Richmond races, there's short tracks in the playoffs. Something to definitely keep an eye on moving into the rest of the season. Let's take a look at the entire top 10. Already really talked about the Hendricks guys, you know, William Byron, Larson, Elliott. Bubba Wallace with a solid run today was in the top 2. I'd say he was 2nd, 3rd, or 4th the entire race. Could not get the lead, but would not lose too many positions. So very interesting race for Bubba Wallace, right? Pit crew was solid. They weren't extra-nominal, but they were solid today. They didn't make any big mistakes, which is what's important, especially at this racetrack, is just to get those just to get on and off pit road is very important here at Martinsville. It always has been. So Bubba Wallace, a solid 4th place run at this racetrack for him. That's a very solid day for him in the 23 Toyota. Ryan Blaney, your defending winner of this race last year in the fall, was able to salvage a 5th place finish. I want to say Ryan Blaney got a penalty at some point, went way to the back of the track, back in the pack, and then was able to climb his way back up to the 5th position. So a solid run there, a solid recovery there for Ryan Blaney. Joey Logano finishing the 6th position, was able to try to kind of like finesse up some sort of a strategy call at the end where he didn't pit in the second stage of the race and then fell back with tire fall off. But that was a solid call for Joey Logano because that got him some track position, and ultimately he was able to finish 6th, where without making that call he might not have finished in the top 10. Tyler Reddick, solid 7th place run, another one of those 2311 Toyotas. Alex Bowman, that one Hendricks driver that was sort of an outlier today, that was not in the top 5, not in the top, obviously not in the top 3, not in the top 5, but a solid 8th place run for Alex Bowman. And Bowman ran consistent all day. I don't think 8th place was where he was really running most of the race. I'd say most of the time he was in the top 5, maybe top 3 at one point, but he was running and having a very solid race. But he was definitely that 4th Hendrick car, but a solid race for Alex Bowman nonetheless. Ryan Preece in the 9th position and Chase Briscoe in the 10th position. Solid run for those SHR cars. If you remember a year ago, Ryan Preece led a bunch of laps in this race, but ultimately got a pit road penalty, which really took him out of contention for any sort of win. But a very solid run today for Ryan Preece. Started in the 22nd position, so gained a lot of track position, finished in the top 10. SHR really likes Martinsville right now because this is one track they really show out at. But once again, it's a struggle right now for SHR. We're going to have to continue to see if they can get over that hump, get back into victory lane. It's been since Kevin Harvick 2 years ago that this organization has won a race, so we'll have to continue to watch that as well moving forward. that's really all there is to talk about following this race at Martinsville. Once again, I thought it was a good race. I was able to get a Martinsville car with a clock on it, which was really exciting. Die-cast car from the racetrack, so certainly I thought that was really cool. Really had a good time. Glad I was able to go. I think the next race I'm going to will be Nashville in a couple of weeks. I have not been to that racetrack yet, so that should be really exciting. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and share the video too if you can. If you do, I really do appreciate it. And of course, man, about Kyle Busch having an awful day, let's get rowdy.